all the games I used to play in my younger, wilder days. The game of clubs and tees had never crossed my mind. But after some discussion with my closest, dearest friends, I decided that I'd give it one try.
This is the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast. My name is Andrew Putters. Joe Nicely is sitting here with me. Let's go. Zozo Championship, Joe.
Yeah, man.
Right there again, you was.
Yeah, fought the good fight. Ended up fizzling out on Sunday, but yeah, I had a lot of good lineups. A lot of good calls. That low 7K range was really good to us again, and so I had a shot going into Sunday, and that's all you can ask for. Still had a good week, just not a great week due to Sunday. But yeah, man, your call last week on this show. You said you were starting your lineups with a couple guys, and one of those guys was Patrick Cantley. So how about your boy?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, like I said, I mean, what worked out was we said that you wanted somebody from the LA area, right? And that's what we had. Yeah, I went to UCLA. Not saying that he came out of nowhere, but we really hadn't seen the form that we wanted out of him yet, because we believe he's a top-tier player. He definitely stepped it up this week and brought it home with a 7-under on Sunday. Basically, I'm not going to say he came out of nowhere, but we weren't talking about him 4 hours before it was over. Heading in that back nine, nobody was talking about him, and just he rattled off a bunch of birdies, and they didn't pretty much.
Yeah, we've seen him do this before. We've seen him come up clutch. Big win last year at the Memorial. He kind of had a similar finish. Just closed out really strong, which makes his final round at the Shriners a few weeks ago even that much more puzzling. You know, we talked about him a lot before that tournament. This is the Patrick Cantley we kind of expected to see this year, or at least the Patrick Cantley I expected to see. One of my favorite players, really high on his prospects long term. But he just hadn't been able to put it all together this year. Showed some signs at the Shriners, showed some signs at the CJ Cup, but was able to put it all together last week. Big win for him. He'll be taking a ton of positive momentum with him to Augusta, where he played well last year.
Absolutely. So we don't expect to see him in Houston, I guess, or do we even know
I hadn't seen that yet. I'm not sure. I think a lot of these guys are kind of non-committal. They're kind of trying to decide what to do since this is a brand new situation with the Masters in November, obviously. I even saw that Tiger wasn't ruling out playing in the Houston Open over the weekend. So that's going to be really interesting next week to see what happens with that. Some takeaways from the Zozo, man. JT and Rahm were up there and just could not close that thing out. Did you get a chance to watch it or see kind of what happened down the stretch there?
I watched a few holes on Sunday, you know, going back and forth with the football on and things like that. And no, I didn't. I mean, like I said, I watched quite a, you know, or not I would say quite a bit, but I watched several holes on the front nine. Like I said, we weren't even thinking about Patrick Cantley. And I said, when I said he made a bunch of birdies and they didn't, that's exactly who I was talking about. JT and Rahm, two really experienced closers late in tournaments.
Yeah, really surprising, man. I mean, I think JT shot 3 under, Rahm shot 4 under, something like that. So I mean, it's not going to look that bad on paper when you're looking at it. But man, I mean, you got two of the top 5 players in the world there playing a back nine that's got 3 par 5s on it, and they both shoot even par coming down the stretch. So I mean, you kind of have to wonder. I'm not sure if it's due to his actual record or if it's just something I've kind of always thought, but I've always viewed JT as a closer. But we've seen him come up empty a couple times this season. Obviously, he's played great, put himself in position to win, and he has a couple wins this year. But we've also seen him kind of let a few slip away, and that was certainly the case again. Which you can argue the same thing for Rahm, but I was especially surprised by those two guys not doing more down the stretch there Sunday. But a great win for Cantley, man. He's a great player, and would love to see him kind of get back in the groove and playing with these guys like we know he can.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much just an ice cold golfer. That's the kind of what he puts off in his personality. You know, I'm sure there's a lot more going on inside than that, but that's just kind of what he puts off. So So, like you said, we had several of these guys pinned down from last week. You just before we got on, we were just talking about it. Some value guys, Cam Smith, Kevin Kisner, Cam Smith, Bubba Watson as well. Bubba finished way up there, top 4. What Smith's 6th, 7th, something like that.
T4 for Cam Smith.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Russell Henley, a guy we've been on for a couple weeks, was up there again with a T4. And we saw a lot of our value guys playing well throughout the week. Kind of fell back on Sunday in my case. A lot of the guys I had, guys like Sebastian Munoz, Brian Harmon, Lanto, guys that we talked about a lot the last couple of weeks, played well for us. Just kind of faded out there in the end, but still a really strong week, man. We got this train rolling. Glad you guys are here with us. We're going through the Masters with you. And we can't wait, man. We're going to dig into Bermuda this week, kind of catch our breath a little bit with this field, this event. But we got some interesting guys in the field that we're going to get to here in a few minutes.
Absolutely. So I'll just go ahead and hop right on that Bermuda train. Like I said, all the way across the United States into the Atlantic Ocean. No better place to go Halloween weekend than the Bermuda Triangle for golf. Maybe we'll run into the Adams family down there. I mean, you can't script this any better, Joe.
No, man, we're set up. We're ready. We got a November Masters and we got a Halloween and the Bermuda Triangle. So let's get it going, man. Who knows what's going to happen this week?
That's right. The Bermuda Championship, second year playing, it's going to be played at Port Royal Golf Course in Southampton, Bermuda. Been around since 1970. Designed by Robert Jones, the most prolific modern designer in the United States. Robert Trent Jones, like I said, 1970. Renovated it once in 95, he did, and then Roger Ruwich in 2008. Looks like he also helped out in the renovation in 08. Par 71, 6,800 yards. Bermuda greens, tees, fairways with a little Zoysia rough in there. That's going to be thick, but I doubt there's very much of it. Just real sandy and things like that. So, you got 5 holes with water in play. You know, there's not a lot of knowledge out there about this course. 88 bunkers on the course. Pretty decent sized green, 6,000 square foot average. So, 1 year of history on this tournament. Last year, Brendan Todd, 24 under, wins it. Wins, I think, about $400,000, they said, in the winner's share. This year, the winner's share is way up to 7, and I know they probably did that to try to get some players in the field. So, what do you think, Joe? I mean, we got to think that with Brendan Todd, just by what we're hearing, Brendan Todd won it last year, 6,800 yard par 71, 24 under. We have to think that somebody gets hot with the irons, hits very consistent, and gets hot with the putter. Which, I mean, we kind of zone in on that every week anyway. Solid with the irons and gets hot with the putter. But we got to think even more. So we can definitely going to rule out the bomber situation here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's so much, like you said, 6,800 yard golf course. Brendan Todd won last year. We know he's one of the shorter hitters on tour. I don't think it's so much that it rules out the bombers as that it brings into play the shorter guys. I think the bombers still have a legitimate chance. Like we saw Aaron Wise and Scotty Scheffler play well here last year. So, the long guys can certainly play well. I think their advantage is certainly muted on this type of course. But really what it does, kind of like we were talking about with the Shriners at TPC Summerlin a few weeks ago, is it brings just basically everybody in the field into play. There's weeks where we can rule out a large chunk of guys based on distance, based on iron play, what have you. But on this course, man, I think pretty much anyone in the field has got a fighting chance this week, which makes it tough from a DFS perspective because we can't rule out kind of a certain style or certain type of player.
Exactly, and it's also going to make it tougher for us if we get into the Draftkings here in just a minute and discuss where they're priced at. But, let's just use an example right here. Charlie Hoffman is 9,700 this week, right? So we're going to put Charlie Hoffman, write him down at 9,700. I'm going to write down another guy. Let's say Scott Stallings, 7,800. And then I'll even go down here to the bottom and say Peter Uline, 6,400, right? So we've got 3 players and 3 different price points. But here's what's really hard about a field like this is that you got Stallings, 7,800. You got Hoffman, 9,700. That's almost $2,000 in price difference. In a normal field event, they're going to be $300 or $400 difference. So if you can really find the value in these lower price players this week, I think your lineup will be serve dividends with that. So,
yeah, great point, man. Great illustration there of kind of how the salary scale shapes up this week. Really reminiscent of a few weeks ago at Corrales when we kind of came across this same thing. They got to price somebody up there, right? So, got a few obvious ones up at the top, which we'll touch on here in just a sec. But yeah, man, like you said, the salary scale kind of funky, which we're used to for these kind of alternate. It's not an alternate field event, but it was last year. But lesser field strength. We see some kind of funky stuff on the salary scale. We're not going to be as comfortable with our lineups this week. Going to be forced to roster some guys, and kind of embrace the volatility with them because they're lower caliber players and what we're used to seeing. So yeah, man, a lot of decisions, a lot to get into on the salary scale. Gets ugly fairly quick as we go down. So it's going to be an interesting week, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So we'll just start at the top. We got 5 guys, 10K and above. Brendan Todd, Will Zalatoris, Harold Varner III, Doc Redmond, Emilio Grillo. In a field like this, we got like all 5 of those guys. However, you got to pick somebody. You got to leave probably 3 or 4 of these guys off. Probably all 4. Probably 4. The ones that kind of stand out to me to try the flashing names, Doc Redmond, Zalatoris, right? However, sneaky little Harold Varner III in there, right in between them. Guy's super consistent. You got to think this course sets up perfect for him. So those 5, who you looking at, Joe?
Yeah, just the ones you said, man. Doc Redmond, Zalatoris, and HV3 up there for me. I get called a Brendan Todd hater sometimes. Kind of thought you could give him a look last week, and you certainly can this week. This is one of the courses where he can really compete with the rest of the field due to the distance of the course being pretty short. But you kind of have to immediately go to a guy like Zalatoris, who we know is just ultra talented. Probably kind of a really talent-wise, probably a tier above most of this field. Like you said, HV3's been very, very consistent, been knocking out strong finishes, and you feel like eventually he's going to get in that winner's circle at some point. Might be a tournament like this when he does it. And then Doc Redmond, man, a guy we've talked about a ton on this show since the restart, player I really, really like. Was looking at him today, and it's hard to believe that he's still just 22 years old, which is kind of crazy. But he's had 2 T3s over his last 6 starts. Tons of upside there. Kind of like I said with HV3 and Zalatoris, you feel like he's got a win coming at some point in his young career. So this might be the week, but not as big on Todd and Grillo up there as those 3 guys. Hadn't made my mind up which one I'm going to start with, but it'll probably be one of those 3, with leaning towards Zalatoris or Doc up there.
Yeah, so just break down Zalatoris here. He's played in 4 events on the PGA Tour. He's made 3 cuts, missed 1. Those 3 cuts he's made, all 3 have been top 10s, okay? And he's done this, Joe. Let me just pull up the exact numbers before I stick my foot in my mouth. He's done this, I believe, being 119th strokes gained putting against this field.
Yeah, man.
The
dude's just a beast. He's a beast. He's ultra talented. We talked a couple weeks ago about his Korn Ferry Tour record. You look at recent rounds, the last 12 rounds, he leads this field in strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained ball striking, strokes gained off the tee. I think he's 3rd in approach. Kills par 5s. So there's just a ton to like, man. This is a kid that we're definitely going to see as a PGA Tour regular here in the next couple of years. He would already be on the PGA Tour if it weren't for the COVID situation, I believe, and has a chance to get his card this week with by playing well. He's just a few points away, I think, from getting a special membership.
Yeah.
So definitely some things for him to be fighting for this week. But yeah, man, you have to love Zalatoris. Don't know that the kind of shorter length really plays to his strengths, but we know he's going to score on these par fives. Should be able to take advantage of the short par fours, and he can just make a ton of birdies. He's coming off the Korn Ferry Tour, and that's kind of what you have to do on that tour to succeed. This is a similar type of layout to one we might see on the Korn Ferry Tour, honestly. So you're going to have to like Zalatoris there, but lean to him and Doc up there for sure. Dropping down into the nines. First player that sticks out is Denny McCarthy, guy we talked about on here a lot. Not the greatest ball striker, but is literally the best putter on the PGA Tour. Great on Bermuda, which is what they'll be facing this week. So I'm super interested in Denny. Played in this tournament last year, played well. So I think we can go back to him here this week. You got any thoughts there on Denny or anybody kind of in that high nine range?
Love Denny, but I love Denny McCarthy here. Like you said, the history fields like this, he's just been raking in the fantasy points against fields like this. And but if you were looking to shave a few dollars off, slide on down to the little East Tennessee guy. Peter Malinelli has played extremely well over the past, say, 3 tournaments, 12 rounds or so. Strokes gained is obviously a great putter. You said Denny McCarthy is probably the best putter on tour. I would put Malinelli in the top 10 easily. Doesn't hit the ball very far, but whenever he's hitting it straight and when he gets his irons on, that's when he's dangerous. One thing I want to point out with the distance, the par, par 71, style of golf, maybe minus the trees. I don't really remember visually what this course is going to look like. A lot of similarities to Hilton Head already. I'm already seeing the people that are highly priced here looks like are highly priced there as well. Just saying that. And Malinelli has played well at Hilton Head. So,
yeah, he has, man. I'm glad you brought him up. Obviously, we're a little biased for Malinelli because he's from our area, but he would be good on anybody's sheet this week. The guy's been playing great. We talked about a couple of weeks ago that it's kind of a shame that he's missed the last 2 weeks because he was playing such good golf. Had a runner-up finish at the Sanderson. The Sanderson also has Bermuda grass greens. He gained 9.2 strokes putting that week, and then logged in a little top 5 at the Shriners the next week. So, I mean, the guy's just on fire. This track sets up perfectly for him. He kills it on Bermuda greens. So a ton to like with Malinelli, man. Really glad you brought him up. And that's an interesting little range right there. Kind of that low 9, high 8 range. We got Malinelli there. Christopher Ventura is a guy we've kind of been in and out on. He's someone you can look at. Henrik Norlander is a guy that we talked about a lot there for about a month stretch after the restart. And I think you can kind of get back on the train this week, even though his price is up there a little bit. He's an excellent player in this range. And a kid that we talked about before the U.S. Open, he didn't play well at the U.S. Open, and it might not have been fair to toss his name out there and that kind of event at Wingfoot, is Rasmus Højgaard. He's 19 years old, and he's already won twice on the Euro Tour. They've priced him up. I mean, you're going to have to pay to roster him, but he's an extremely talented kid. And a guy we talked about a couple of weeks ago at the Shriners, Justin Suh, we got him for free then. He was like 6,400, and we told you guys to play him, and he came up with a T8 to earn his way into this event. So they've got him priced up again, but you can certainly look at him. He's a former number 1 ranked amateur in the world. So you can look at Justin Suh there. A lot of options in that high 8, low 9 range.
absolutely. I'm glad you got his name right that time.
Yeah, not Sue. It's
we got corrected by the West Coast fans. So you were dropping. We just kind of just talked about. You got into the high 8s there. As you slide down the 8s, I'm going to continue to think about, like I said, Hilton Head whenever I'm looking at these players. And a name that sticks out is Luke List. Great ball striker, not so great with the putter. Not played well as late. Usually his better tournaments are in the spring, and that's mainly because or better finishes are in the spring, mainly because he plays a ton of events in the springtime usually, and the golf courses that favor his game. But any other thoughts besides I'm hitting on Luke List?
List is a legit guy to bring up because of the Hilton Head comp. And he had a top 10 at Corrales, which I'm kind of comparing to this tournament as far as very, very similar type of field. Needed a ton of birdies there, kind of a coastal windy track like this one is. And I'd also bring up a name that rings a bell on these type of tracks. A guy we've touched on several times is Adam Shank there at 8,100, who I think has a great chance to play well this week. No sexy finishes, but he's just been knocking out really solid finishes, man. The prices went up a little bit, but you're talking about he's not missed a cut since June. So I think Shank's certainly a guy you can look at. Patrick Rogers is a guy we talk about a lot on this show. I don't know that this is a great Patrick Rogers track. I prefer him more on tracks where he can kind of bomb it away and just make a ton of putts and have 4 par 5s. This one only has 3. But you can certainly give him a look. Pat Perez is kind of a name there, as well as Stuart Sink and Scott Stallings, who you mentioned. But maybe a guy that's been one of our favorite value plays. They got him priced up this week, but I'm still in as Wesley Brown. And you talk about the Hilton Head, the Harbortown comp. We know he's won at Harbortown before. And he's played excellent golf coming off a shoulder injury when he's been able to tee it up. You got any thoughts on Wesley? I know we've went to him multiple times on this show, but he's kept rewarding us, man. He's knocked out several top 25s for us since the restart.
I'm sorry, I'm back. I was on mute there. Muted myself. I'm on Wesley Brown, or I like Wesley Brown this week, coming off of T12 with Sanderson. Like you said, the thoughts are with the Hilton Head, him being a past winner. Like I said, makes a lot of sense. What really does be hard to look at is whenever I'm in here and I'm starting my roster off with Malinati, Stalling, Stewart, Sink, and Wesley Brown. So
hey man, it might not be a bad lineup this week. I'm looking at Wesley Brown's just recent last 12 rounds numbers. First in the field strokes gained approach, third in the field strokes gained ball striking, 7th in the field strokes gained tee to green. This is a guy that we're getting in this field at 7,800. So even though the price has went way up on him, you could still argue we're getting a really good value with him at 7,800 this week.
Yeah, I agree. I love Wesley Brown. I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit on Adam Shank a little bit, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
This is only what I've noticed by watching it. Keeping up the scores, watching here and there, is that the dude comes out firing 6 under first round, 4 under, and then he finishes that for the tournament. It's like he has like a little Saturday, Sunday low every week. Not saying he's choking it all, but just can't really get it going, it seems like.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I've noticed that before too. So great call on Shank. Maybe a guy you might want to toss a first round leader bet on. But I've kind of noticed that same trend with him as well.
Yeah, so sliding on down to the 7s, it's really hard because you got a lot of guys that hit the ball really far right in here, as far as Rogers, RCB, Johnny Vegas. These guys really hit the ball a long ways. Wyndham Clark might not necessarily want to – maybe their game doesn't really fit here. It's fun. I say that, but, RCB – he struggles with finishes. I mean, he hasn't had the greatest finishes. 40, he finishes around the 30s in events that he actually makes the cut because he's playing pretty much full time on the PGA Tour now. But it seems like his game has altered. When he first broke on the scene, everybody kind of first saw who he was at Augusta, right? He got put in a big old pairing in the first couple of rounds because of who he's a big, like I say, a sexy name coming from Europe, and he bombs off the tee. Big old tall, good looking, skinny guy that just He hits it really
Yeah,
good.
I
Hits it
mean,
far.
you see his name there, man, and I think we talked about this. I can't. Maybe it was at the Sanderson, but you see his name around these other guys in that mid-7 range, and you just want to play him. But when you dig into his numbers, it's pretty ugly. He's not been hitting the ball well. Made a little run there at the U.S. Open. Had just a total bag overhaul with his equipment. But I know why he did that, because he's been hitting the ball horribly. Gained strokes tee to green and with his irons one time since August. So just really tough to pull the trigger, even though you feel like the pedigree's there. Another guy that you could kind of say the same thing about is Russell Knox. You feel like he's way underpriced in this field at 7,600, but when you dig into kind of his stat line, been really struggling, man. He does, however, with Knox, he does seem to be kind of trending in the right direction. I think he had a top 10 at the Safeway a few weeks ago. Has had a couple of positive iron outings. So you can give Knox a look. This really feels like his type of track. I think he had like a T11 here last year. We know he's played well at Harbor Town before. So you could give Russell Knox a look there. Another guy there in that range just to hit on is Sepp Straka. He's a guy I feel like just kind of brings some sneaky upside to the table. Doesn't really have any finishes that blow you away. Doesn't really statistically blow you away, but he's just kind of a proven guy that we've seen play well in these type of events. And then after that, man, you could maybe look at Brian Stewart there just a tiny bit. Wyndham Clark's name jumps out, but this doesn't seem like his type of track. And after that, man, it starts getting pretty ugly as you move down the scale.
Okay, what about the Duff Daddy? Guy's such a horrible putter, but I mean,
that's the only thing that scares me with Duff and like some of these other guys. I noticed Kyle Stanley down there, who's ball striking we like. He's right there with Duffner, and even Max Homa. These guys, you would think, in this field, maybe you want to give them a look, but I mean, they're going to have to make some putts, Andrew. You're talking, and we've seen these scores just go nuts. I mean, you got to think, unless the wind really gets going down there, you got to think like 25 under, man. And is Duffner going to make enough putts to shoot that low of a score? I mean, we know he hits it absolutely great. Same can be said for Kyle Stanley, but are they going to make enough putts?
Oh, I just saw something for the first time, Joe. Will Gordon's playing.
Oh no.
Oh, God.
I know. I saw him earlier. He's like 6,700.
Oh, God.
I don't think we can do it, man.
We can't pull him off the list at 6,700 in this field.
Oh, it's so gross. There's some names down there, I mean, it's like Will Gordon. We know he's capable of making a bunch of birdies, but he's just burned us so many times. And kind of really reminiscent of last week, we spent a little bit of time talking about Jordan Spieth last week at 6,900. Brandon Grace is 6,900 in this field this week.
Yeah, I saw that. I was looking at his numbers right before you said that. Obviously played well in Hilton Head, but, man, he's had just such a horrible year since the restart. That's why it would kind of red flag him.
Yeah, man. It's so crazy to see his name down there. Kind of like Spieth last week. It's just kind of weird that Spieth was 69 as well last week. But Grace just hadn't showed us anything. Really tough to pull the trigger on him, even though you kind of like the name recognition. A guy like Scott Harrington, you could maybe give a look to. He's played well in these kind of weaker field events where these guys have to make a lot of birdies. He came off the Korn Ferry Tour last year, which is we touched on kind of what this track reminds you of maybe kind of a Korn Ferry Tour event where you're going to make a ton of birdies. So, I mean, I don't mind looking at Scott Harrington. Swafford hadn't done anything since the win at all. He's looked terrible. Vincent Whaley's a guy not a lot of people know, but has played some pretty solid golf. Might be kind of a little sleeper down there you can look at. Really good Bermuda putter. He logged a couple of top 25s there in September, so you can look at him. And after that, man, unless you wanted to go to like a Will Gordon down there, I mean, there's Ryan Armour's down there. Ollie Schneider-Jans is coming back on. I mean, that's a guy you can maybe look at. But, man, it's ugly down there. It really, really is this week.
Yeah, I was looking. Is that Paul Stankowski? Oh God, he's like 100 years old. Paul Stankowski. Last tournament was the Bermuda last year. He shot 75, 73. Ooh. Um, Fred Funk in the field, baby. We're
Fred
going
Funk's
against.
in the field, and Fred Funk's son is in the field.
That's probably why.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I was,
Ollie's in the field, and Ollie's brother Luke is also in the
yeah, I
field. So
saw
we got
that. Interesting. Yeah, I was looking at Brandon Grace, 4 out of 5 missed cuts in a row, or missed the last 4 cuts in a row. He has made 1 cut in the last 10 tournaments, which is sick to talk about. What about guy that broke my heart in head to head at Hilton Head? Has missed every cut since, but Vaughn Taylor could sneak in there. Not saying he will, but that's
Yeah,
a
man. I
good.
mean, these guys, it's like the guys that the names that we know, the guys you'd maybe want to give a look to. Just without fail, when you dig into their game log, there's a reason they're priced down there. There's not really any sneaky options as far as guys that are really hitting the ball well or guys that are in good form. All we're treading on is these guys. Like I saw Lucas Beergarden down there at 6,500, who's a Euro Tour player, but we've seen him play really, really good golf at different times over the last couple of years. But man, if you look at his numbers and results, they're just horrible. And the same can be said for just basically all these guys down here. One guy that stood out, I always try to find kind of one guy maybe to throw at you guys, and a couple guys stood out to me down there this week that maybe I'll throw a dart with. One is Camilo Villegas, who is a guy that kind of burst on the scene several years ago and a lot of people thought was a rising star, but kind of faded out. He's been playing some pretty solid golf, so I wouldn't care to give Camilo a look down there. And another guy who's only about a year away from playing really, really good golf is Andrew Putnam. Not sure what's happened to him. We saw him pop up a couple of weeks ago, though, I believe at the Shriners, where he played some decent golf, or the Safeway. I think it was the Safeway, and he's made 3 cuts in a row. So you can maybe give a look to Andrew Putnam down there, who not too long ago, 12 months ago, was playing really, really good golf and was in WGC fields and really nowhere near where he is right now. But he's a guy you can maybe give a look to down there. But other than that, man, unless you got somebody, there's nothing else for me down there this week.
I mean, you can almost down there cover your eyes up and throw a dart. I mean, like you said, the names that kind of stand out is going to be like, I mean, how I think that Bill Hawes is 6,400 in this field. You look at his stat line, you can see why. Same thing with Brandon Grace. 3 years ago in this field, Brandon Grace is going to be 9,800. He's 6,900 today. It's crazy.
It's frustrating, man, because I mean, the guys in this field that really the only guys that we feel comfortable with are the guys up top. I mean, I think you'd agree that there's a handful of guys up there that are really good players and that we would really like to get in our lineups, but there's not really anywhere to even go stars and scrubs unless you're just totally throwing darts down there. I mean, this would be a week where I'd normally want to target those guys up at the top, be willing to take my chances cheap. But it's so ugly down there, man, that it's hard to do that. I mean, it almost kind of forces you to go a little bit more balanced, even if that's not something you feel great about with a lot of these guys kind of in the mid-range. But, that might be where we have to go because it is so ugly, in the lower sixes.
Yeah, I mean, we could see a lot of ownership in that 75 to 8,000 then because of that. The Russell Knox, Wesley Brown, Stalling, Stuart Sink, like you mentioned, also maybe Patrick Rogers, RCB, Sneck, even up to Danny Willett. Might see a lot of ownership right there this week. So
yeah, I mean, at least you feel like you know what you're getting in that range. I mean, none of those guys are going to knock your socks off, but you do kind of feel like you know what you're getting. Whereas, really, man, you get down the low sevens, down into the sixes. You're really rolling the dice down there, which isn't to say that you can't kind of grind it out this week, research this week, find something that you like about a guy down there, that you can pair with a Zalatoris or pair with a Doc Redmond, and maybe get a little bit of stars and scrubs in your lineups. So just work the research, kind of keep grounding it. Maybe find somebody you like down there.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm on page with you there. So who you throwing out in that mid, that dart? You've already threw out those two guys really low. You want to throw out another name, just a shot in the dark, or you good?
Yeah, man, I would say Vegas and Putnam kind of as my real deep punts. And then I really like Wesley Brown this week. I don't think he's going to be a dark horse by any means. I think he'll actually be pretty popular. I think, like you were just saying, a lot of people are going to work their way into that range. But I really do like Wesley Brown this week.
I'm gonna throw somebody out, and they are right at 7,000. Cameron Piercy, 7,000.
Not a bad call, man.
Yeah, feel like this. Yeah, I mean, he could be in the top 10 easily. He's probably a little underpriced actually with this field with his recent history. So that's all I got. My name's Andrew Putters. This is Joe Nicely, and I forgot to mention he is the lead golf editor at Rotoballer.com. What you got going on? What we got going on over at Rotoballer? Great fan of the program here.
Yeah, man, we really hope you'll go check out Rotoballer. Kind of like I was just mentioning, do your research, really dig in this week. We got you totally covered over there. We got a huge PGA research station. We got kind of a one-stop shop. We got tons of stats, course history, recent form, all in one place. Josh Bennett does an amazing course breakdown, so you can really dig into this week's course. Spencer's got you covered on betting. And I'm dropping the Core 4 on Wednesday. Draftkings Core 4. It's my favorite 4 plays of the week. So we hope you'll check that out. You can sign up for premium using code NICE, N-I-C-E, and we hope to see you over there.
Absolutely. Like I said, my name's Andrew Putters. That was Joe Nicely, and this is the Turner Fantasy Golf Podcast, signing off for the Bermuda Championship 2020.
It's gone.